turn on the television and a presenter says, the international trade deficit has necessitated a significant shift in technical assistance for the local development program. Suddenly, your brain freezes. You feel that shock in your chest because the words are flying at you at 100 miles an hour. You think, I will never be able to speak like this, and you get completely tongue-tied. But what if I told you that you don't need to understand every single word to lead a global conversation? Today, we are breaking the news English barrier and showing you how to win any debate using simple Lego block phrases.
Claps enthusiastically. Hello, hello, champions. A truly massive, high energy and vibrant welcome back to day 32 of our 60-day spoken English podcast. Wow, Sam, just stop for a second and look at the milestone we've crossed. We are officially in the second half of this 60-day journey. If you've been with us since day one, you have transformed from someone afraid of saying myself into a speaker who can navigate the complex streets of London and professional boardrooms. Absolutely incredible.
Today, we are shifting gears, moving from personal stories to the world around us. Our topic for day 32 is talking about news, expressing opinions on trends, and simple debate practice. I know exactly what's going through our listeners' minds right now. They're thinking, news English is too hard, the words are too big. I've heard it 1,000 times from creators and students alike.
It's a very common fear, Sam, but we are going to dismantle it today. You hear words like international trade or technical assistance, and you feel that shock Ollie Richards talks about, the feeling that people in the real world don't speak like your clear, slow textbooks. But today, our foundation is built on the extensive learning method. Most students are stuck in intensive learning. They try to analyze every tiny nugget of a news report, looking up every difficult word in the dictionary. Wait, that is the fastest way to lose your motivation and feel defeated.
Exactly, Ishani. Today, we are going to read and listen for the gist. Gist simply means asking yourself, can I follow the main ideas of this story? If a TV presenter says there was a robbery at Lawrence Windsor's mansion and you understand that paintings were stolen, you have the gist. You don't need to know the specific definitions of whereabouts or trace to understand the core of the news.
That is such an important mindset shift for our learners. As our sources suggest, the feeling of I don't understand every detail is completely normal even for advanced speakers. In fact, skipping a difficult paragraph or an unfamiliar grammar point is a mature approach to speaking and listening. It allows you to maintain the momentum of the conversation instead of getting stuck. If you stop to study every verb conjugation in a news report, the news train will leave the station without you.
Think about Natalie in our story. She's described as very observant and curious. To be a great conversationalist regarding news and trends, you just need that curiosity. You don't need to be a professional economist to have a valid opinion. Remember the stress on that word, listeners. It's economist. You just need to follow the general story to participate.
Absolutely. Your proficiency comes from the time you spend integrating English into your life, not just your study hours. So, for this first part of our journey today, your new mantra is gist is gold. If you get the main idea of the news, you have the power to talk about it. Can you feel that confidence growing? Let's take that energy right into the newsroom. Absolutely.
Sound of a news ticker intro. Now let's get into the real-life action. In our story, a huge turning point happens in Chapter 9, The News. Natalie and Alice are in their hotel when the TV presenter announces breaking news. This scene is our perfect template for describing trends and events in your own life.
The breaking news structure is very specific but easy to learn. The TV presenter says, "Valuable drawings by William Turner have disappeared from a private collection." When you want to talk about a trend or a news item to a friend or a colleague, start with a clear, impactful sentence. You might say, "There is a new development program in the city," or "The weather report says a cold front is coming."
And don't forget the just rule we learned from our linguistic notes. We use just to indicate that an event happened very recently. For example, I just heard that the international trade deal was signed, or the accident just happened near the post office. Wow, notice how that one tiny word just adds so much urgency. It tells your listener that this is fresh, hot news.
Precision is also important when describing the gist. Natalie and Alice immediately start discussing the details of the stolen art. Alice notes, "There's the drawing of a large church, the drawing of a boat, and the drawing of a sleeping cat." When you are reporting news to a friend or colleague, try to be specific but keep the sentences simple. This helps you maintain the heartbeat of the language.
Speaking of the heartbeat, we have to talk about mastering syllable stress in global topics. If you want to talk about trends like the economy or technology, you must hit the stress correctly or people might lose the gist of your point. It's economist with the stress on the second syllable, and development program, where the stress is on the first word of the compound noun. If you misplace the stress, you might sound like you're speaking a different language entirely.
Once you've stated the news, the next step is to give your opinion. Our sources provide the perfect opinion palette for this. You can use standard phrases like "I think," "I believe," or "I suppose." If you're feeling more enthusiastic, you could say, "I'm a big fan of this new technology." Or if you're traditional, "I much prefer the old way of doing things."
Wait, but what if you disagree with a trend? This is where the expression becomes your best friend. According to our linguistic notes, shows that the speaker is thinking or perhaps even disagreeing politely. If a colleague says, "I think AI will replace all writers," you can say, "I'm not so sure. I think we still need human creativity." It sounds so much more natural than a flat no. That is a great tip for maintaining professional relationships. And if a friend is telling you about a news trend at 100 miles an hour and you're getting lost, use your safety phrases from Dialogue 1-7. You can say, "I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch that. Can you repeat it?" Or use a rising intonation with, "I beg your pardon?" Even blaming the technology works. "Sorry, the phone is cutting out."
Absolutely. Reporting the news is really just storytelling with a bigger audience and slightly different vocabulary. You don't need a degree in journalism. You just need to be observant, like Natalie. Wow, Ishani, I feel like our listeners are sounding like global citizens already. Let's move into the competitive phase. Video 3, simple debate practice.
A debate often sounds scary, but it's just a conversation where two people have different opinions. It's not a fight, it's a discussion. To win a debate in English, you don't need to be the loudest person in the room. You just need to be polite and indirect. This is a key skill for anyone looking to build authority in markets like the UK or Norway.
Let's look at the how about and I'd like strategy. In Dialogue 3-8, Jake and Melissa are debating where to go on vacation. Jake doesn't say, "We are going to the Alps" in a bossy way. Instead, he says, "How about a compromise?" Wow, compromise is a 10 out of 10 word for any debate. It shows you are willing to find a middle ground.
You can also use "I'd like" to make a tentative, polite suggestion. For instance, "I'd like to suggest a different perspective" sounds much more professional than "you are wrong." Another secret is the good point acknowledgement. Even if you completely disagree, acknowledge the other person's point first. In Dialogue 3-7, Gary says, good point."
That is such a powerful move. When you say, good point, but have you considered, the other person feels heard. They are much more likely to listen to you after that. It bridges the gap between your opinions. It's the difference between a stalemate and a productive conversation.
Absolutely.
We also need to distinguish between certainty and doubt. In Dialogue 3-11, Monica says, I know so. Trust me. The sources explain that to know shows much more certainty than to think. If you're unsure, say, I think this trend will continue. But if you have the data, be authoritative like Natalie and say, I'm almost certain.
And don't forget the or choice structure. When you're in a debate, you can use or to highlight the difference between two paths. For example, should we take a taxi or a bus? Remember the intonation we practiced. Your voice should rise on the first choice and fall on the second. It's a subtle way to show you are weighing options.
Let's bring all of this together with a role-play simulation, the art versus comics debate. Natalie is our art historian, Mariana is the comic collector, and you, Sam, can be the moderator. This will show our listeners how to use these phrases in a real-time disagreement. Sam, take us away.
Welcome to our discussion today. We are debating a very interesting topic. Is classical art more valuable than modern comic books? Natalie, let's start with you.
In my opinion, art like the Turner drawings is special because it is original and historical. It belongs in a museum or a grand mansion like Lawrence Windsor's. It tells the story of our past in a way that nothing else can.
Good point, Natalie. But I believe comic books are the art of the people. I much prefer my collection of rare comics because they are my passion. They represent modern storytelling and are incredibly valuable to collectors today.
I know how you feel, Mariana, and I respect that passion. However, I'm almost certain that a single Turner drawing is worth hundreds of thousands of pounds more than most comics. The historical technical assistance provided by these artists is unmatched.
How about a compromise? Some comics, like Little Nemo in Slumberland, are over 100 years old and are recognized by economists as very valuable assets. Perhaps we can agree that both are important forms of cultural development in their own ways.
Excellent idea, Mariana. It seems we have reached a compromise. Both classical art and historical comics have unique value. Wow, listeners, did you hear those phrases in action? In my opinion, good point, I much prefer, I'm almost certain, and how about a compromise?
That was perfect. You didn't get tongue-tied because you were using those Lego block phrases from our sources. You were focusing on the gist of the argument rather than worrying about every single verb conjugation. Absolutely. A debate is just a trade-off of ideas. When you use these structures, you sound professional, calm, and in control.
We have reached the end of day 32. Wow. Today we learned that you don't need to be a professional economist to talk about the news. We mastered the breaking news reporting style, the syllable stress of global topics, and the art of the compromise in a debate. I can already see you turning on the news today with a much more confident curiosity.
Here is your day 32 challenge. I want you to be a TV presenter for 2 minutes. Step 1. State one breaking news item, real or from the Windsor story, starting with, I just heard. Step 2. Give your opinion using I think or I'm a big fan of. Step 3. Suggest a compromise for a problem in that news story using how about.
Record yourself and listen back. Are you hitting the heartbeat on words like development and economist? Check your intonation too. Does your voice fall at the end of your information statements? Absolutely. Doing this hard work is what separates the adventurers from the students. You are leaning into the discomfort, and that is where the growth happens.
Tomorrow, for day 33, we're stepping into the world of leadership. We'll be covering English for managers, including giving instructions clearly and appreciating team members. We'll even see how Lawrence Windsor manages his staff of 6. It's going to be a high-authority session you won't want to miss.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Keep your eyes on the gist, keep your eyed likes ready, and I will see you tomorrow. Stay curious, stay confident, and as always, happy learning. Thank you and good night.
Good night, everyone. Keep practicing and stay fearless.